What's up, guys? You know who it is, your boy JS7, and we're back for another edition of the Inside Line. And if you recognize, I got my new co-host this weekend, my pal Jason Weigandt. If you watch the races, you recognize that voice. I'm excited to have him join. Clinton Fowler, aka King of the Calculator. He's out with the wifey this weekend or doing something, or maybe he didn't want to come in because I believe he lost on the head-to-head this weekend. Well, nonetheless, I'm happy to be joined by Jason Weigandt. Get a little preview from what's going to happen this weekend and preview what happened last weekend. So what up, Jay? How you doing?
First, I'm pumped to be here because anytime we get to talk is awesome. And I've told you this. I've worked with a lot of people, but I've learned more from you than anyone else. I'm just going to say it. Maybe some guys want to come at me, but I learned a lot. But this is going to be a whole new level because I'm cheap. I don't know anything about sports betting. So this is going to be a true education here. So this is like 2 or 3 times better than normal for me.
Well, I don't know about how much you're going to learn on that part because math
Okay.
wasn't my strongest department in school and all that. But
All
you know
right.
what? I say let's do it a little bit different today. Let's just talk about what's happened last weekend and give the people what they should look for this weekend. So it's going to be a little bit different, people. We're not going to go straight into just the odds because, my boy Clinton, he usually kind of handles all that. So we're going to give you some insights and do a little bit of maybe a little bit of rewind show, kind of going with Jason. Let's do a little bit of
Ooh.
racing. So we can start with that. That being said, let's get back on to what we saw last weekend because I always like to say when we're sitting there, we're commentating the race, we're talking and commercials, and we'll talk like, man, that was a beatdown. Well, I'm gonna just say that what Jet Lawrence was able to do last weekend was straight up, it was a beatdown. Like I felt like we said it on the show. Anytime this dude has to step up, Daytona, anytime anybody maybe comes into it and starts threatening him, he just shows up. And what we saw last weekend, the way he opened those motos told me a little bit of different where his mindset was. So what do you think, Jay?
Yeah, it's hard to know, right? Is that he was so good right from the beginning of this Pro Motocross thing. It's like you almost forget he's coming back from an ACL, and Honda's like, the bike isn't quite ready yet. So here's what I'm trying to figure out, James. Is he just getting better because he's coming back from injury? They got the bike figured out. Or at Southwick, was he just at a different level at Southwick? It's not a timing thing. It's just that track thing.
Yeah, I would, I know a little bit more than probably most people because, I do talk to these guys and stuff and just I can kind of tell
Hmm.
how they attack. I would say that was more of, I mean, clearly the dude's, he's getting better, but we go back a couple weeks ago at High Point and even the beginning of Pro Motocross, like when was the last time you seen him ride like that in the beginning part of the moto? So to
No.
me, that was more about Southwick and maybe, clearly he's getting better. Clearly he's pretty good and comfortable in the sand. But I think that was more of a, you know, hey, anybody that questions anything, I'm gonna let you know. And I foresee that possibly happening again this weekend with another guy probably trying to show up. I think he'll show up really ready to go racing.
Ooh, okay. We're gonna get to that in a moment, and it will affect the sports betting stuff that we'll get to later. Uh, the rider coming back. Hold that thought. I have one other thing for Southwick I want to ask you about. We finally saw Jorge Prado. Who do we have at the previous rounds?
We had George. George has been riding on the Monster Energy Kawasaki. And there's a lot of stuff that we talk about off the air and stuff,
Yeah,
and maybe even some of it on the air. We talk a lot. We got like 5, 6 hours of talking. So there's a lot of
yeah.
things I forget. But I was saying that, man, like with these riders, especially a guy like Jorge, when you're a champion, like believe it or not, if you can't win, it is probably one of the hardest things to go out there and do and show up and just even get a top five. Like just your motivation level and really focus. How do you go from being at the highest and coming here with all this hype and then all of a sudden like you got to focus, I'm just trying to get fifth today. That's hard to do. So you can kind of see what was going on with Jorge all year long, excuse me, with George all year long. And I was saying that, man, just really a fast lap time in practice, like one lap in practice would kind of change his whole perspective on going racing. And then clearly I felt like he was a little bit different. So from your perspective, what did you see from Jorge that was different this weekend? And do you feel like it's something that would probably move forward to?
I'm a little worried because kind of like Jet, right? We're saying, okay, Jet was at a higher level than he even had been before. Is that a Southwick thing or is that just he's getting better thing? I think it's the same question for Prado. Was that, we're finally seeing more of the Jorge, more of the real guy? I don't know, man. I think he showed up. He knows he's good in sand. He told me he moved to Belgium when he was 12. And I think he saw, this is my chance to try to get something going. But I don't think they made enough improvements on the bike or himself in general, where that's necessarily like, okay, this is his level now. I think that was Southwick, and I'm not assured that you're going to see that fast qualifying. I think it might be closer to High Point at RedBud than it was at Southwick, and I hate to say that because that's a scary thought.
No, I mean, well, you've been around the block, and I guess I think I'm gonna differ with you. I actually
Okay.
think that was enough to show, and the reason I say that is because, again, and I could be completely wrong, but hopefully I'm not. So Jorge, keep George at the crib. All right, I need Jorge this weekend. I just feel like if there was issues with the bike power, it would have been exploited at power at Southwick. You know,
Yeah.
like the sand. So
Yeah.
that didn't fix anything. And Southwick, as you know, is a whole different. It's not Belgium sand. It's, it's nothing like what he grew up on.
I
So
agree.
okay, yeah, you just feel comfortable in it, but it's still not that sand. There's a lot of stuff. I saw the fight, and the reason I say that is because why I feel like it will be different. It's not like he just went out there and he rode and he just was, going, he was just fast, right? Like it didn't look like he was trying.
No.
He was just fast, switch would mean he's just comfortable. He knows how to ride sand. We saw him, scrub in, like actually trying to move forward. And to me, that's a rider. That was a decision that was made by him. Like he decided that, you know what, man, I actually a lot closer to these guys and whatnot. It's like I'm actually going to go try it to make up that difference. And so I'm leaning on the fact of what I saw from his body language and how he was attacking the racetrack, rather than being like, all right, well, the dude just showed up and he got off the bus and naturally he just knows how to ride the sand, so therefore he's just fast. I believe maybe that's where the qualifying happened, but what I saw in the race makes me believe that I think RedBud would be more closer to Southwick than it would have been High Point. So
I totally
hopefully,
see what you're saying. He was just trying way harder. And I'm glad, first of all, you explained how tough it is for really good riders who expect to win to get fifth, because that's the point I've been trying to explain. When he started getting 13th in motos and it was really making people scratch their heads, I'm like, you don't get it. He's not going to grind to try to get 12th instead of 13th. I need you to say the things that I know, but you have the credibility. When he gets a good start and he starts getting past, at some point, doesn't the bottom just fall out for a guy like that? And he's just like, forget this. This is
yeah,
not going to happen.
yeah, absolutely. And I go back to 2005 when I was on the two stroke with Ricky. Showed up at Hangtown, got whooped. Whoa, what's going on? Show up at High Point, I get 2 seconds, but I knew I wasn't even close to the dude. And I came to Southwick thinking that, all right, it's sand. I know how to ride the sand.
Yeah.
I'm still James Stewart. I can figure this out. I didn't even finish the motos, and like I think I started top 5 and I was
Yeah.
there and I just saw Ricky pulling away. And I'm just like, mentally, I don't even want to do this. And so
Yeah.
I always said this, and you look at a guy who's expected to win a race when they go down and how they get up compared to a guy that's fifth to that 10th, like how they get just the hustle difference. It's hard, and you can even it's not even just Jorge. We talked about a couple years ago with Cooper Webb when he was on the KTM. I'm like, dude, if he ain't gonna be like winning or battling for a win, the dude's gonna start getting 10th. And I believe that's what you see with Jorge. Like once he realized that he was in a spot to where he's like, man, I don't feel like I can win this thing. The 13th, what's 13th or 20th to him?
No.
Like I might as well. So that's what was going on. So you're absolutely right, Jay. Like there's just a different, and it's just a different level of mindset of a guy who's been a champion trying to reinvent himself. And you're spot on about what you were seeing out there. Sure.
Okay, so the reason I was thinking that we could potentially go back to more High Point style at RedBud for him is, bro, he has been trashing the bike and team even after Southwick. He said, I should win. It was a sand track. They didn't give me the tools. So that's what made me fear, oh, he's saying the only reason I was even good is because I'm so good in sand, and all the problems we had before that are still there. Now I say Spanish guys and Euro guys are just way more outspoken. So maybe, James, in the truck, maybe you said the exact same things to your team, but we didn't hear you say it in the press. So maybe I need to realize he's just more unfiltered and this is normal rider talk. But that scared me when he said that after finally going fast. He still wasn't positive.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I do think they're a little bit, the culture is a little bit different. So
Yes.
they're more like the Gen Zs or whatever you want to call them. They just kind of tell you what that's on their mind,
Yep.
So, but I believe the reason he said that is because of what I just mentioned, like what was fixed, like, so all the issues that you would have had would have been more, even, it would have been worse at Southwick. So why did you go faster? Well, like he said, like, I'm just good. Well, I'm hoping as a rider, that feeling that he got being up
Okay.
close to front is going to make him be like, you know what? Nothing's changed. So at this point, you realize it's not Kawasaki. They didn't fix the bike. It's Jorge. It's me out here riding, and I'm gonna try to, basically do the same thing I did at Southwick. So I believe the reason he said that is because of what I just said. Like, well, Jorge, your bike, if it's slow, it's gonna be slower at Southwick. Why did you go? Well, he's just basically telling you guys that it was more him. And so hopefully that motivation just continues going to RedBud because otherwise, if he doesn't show up this weekend, man, I can see it really. You think High Point was bad? I can see it going the
Yeah.
other way, even worse than that. So hopefully, for our sake, we get Jorge instead of George this weekend. But that being said, they were still all chasing Jet Lawrence, and if you would have bet on Jet Lawrence, as my boy, me and Clinton like to say, it's a money market. So let's talk about the overall winners for this weekend. Let's talk about the favorites. Okay,
It's
clearly,
your money market, bro. It's your
it's
money market with Jet Lawrence.
it's the money market, man. Like the way you just need a job, all right? Just keep the bills going in. So I'm gonna do my best. I'm sorry, people. Where you at, Clinton? You're gonna feel bad if it's not great. Blame it on Clinton. But Jet Lawrence is the favorite for this weekend, clearly. Second favorite is Hunter Lawrence, which is kind of surprising. I would say maybe Eli and Hunter are pretty close, but more surprising than that, who do you think is the third best or odds to win the race this weekend? Who do you think?
We're here.
Sexton or Eli?
We have to talk about this. This is crazy. Chase Sexton's coming back, and he has more aggressive odds than Eli Tomac right off the rip.
Yeah, and you can look at that. All right, this is interesting to me, and let's just talk about this for a minute. Is this more of what they think of Chase Sexton coming off injury, what we saw at Paula, I guess his history, what he did last year? Is that more what they're looking, or is Vegas a lot smarter than we think? Do they see what happened last weekend with Eli Tomac, considering that this isn't Eli's best facility, one of his worst tracks to be on that? So does Vegas kind of what I was saying about Jorge, the champion mindset? Did Jet Lawrence, was that a huge blow to Eli's confidence going from last weekend? What happened, what transpired there? And they're kind of putting that into the odds, and maybe that elevates Chase Sexton ahead of him. Because I don't know how you can come in. Eli's been riding all year, riding good all year long. Chase Sexton's been hurt. Last time we seen Chase, even in practice and those first opening motos, it wasn't that good. And it is so hard to come into the middle part of the season racing a guy like Jet Lawrence, Hunter Lawrence, because all the guys are healthy that he's going to have to beat. So you would say Chase Sexton being injured coming in the middle part of the year, he's better than Eli, who's already got 2 moto victories so far this year, straight up and down? I would say probably not, but I think Vegas is probably a little bit smarter. I think Eli's mindset might be a little, who knows, might not be the Eli Tomac. I feel like I can believe I can win this thing. Therefore, just like Jorge, what's a third place? I'm not here for that. If I can't win, I might as well get fifth. What do you think, Jay?
Yeah, I think that's it. This is like a head in the heart thing. All the data would say that Tomac should be better than Sexton for the reasons you just listed. Tomac's been racing for 2 months and Sexton is not. So just based on like the science part, Tomac should be better than Sexton. But I don't think that's what they're setting these odds based on. It's not based on what the head thinks. It's what the heart thinks. I think they're just thinking Tomac's deflated. He got whooped at Southwick, his favorite track, by both Lawrence brothers, and we're going to instead count on the guy coming in fresh, coming in hot. His confidence hasn't been hurt. I mean, look, you know Chase Sexton well. He always thinks he can beat Jet Lawrence. He didn't have proof just 7 days ago that he can't. So I think that's what they're banking on.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you. And you can see in Eli's body language last weekend, I think it was a big hit. I really do. I mean, we were talking off air and I said, well, thank God for him that I believe it helps him that he got beat by both Hondas, because you can't just say, you can be like, well, they figured out their bike. They got their starts. The bike just worked well there. So therefore, like, I'm going to lean towards that. Rather, if you just got beat by Jet and you beat Hunter, you couldn't blame it on the motorcycle. You'd be like, dude, that dude just beat you. But there's a part, I will say this about Eli, and it's been strange because I felt like this part was gone. I've seen more times where that dude's been beast mode, like coming up, where we're like, dude, he's coming.
Oh, yeah.
On Justin Cooper and really stall out. Where we go back to maybe 5 years ago when he was on Kawasaki, that was the thing about Eli. Like, dude, if you let him roll past you, he's gonna demoralize you. He's gonna keep going. But if you can stop that train from continue moving forward, then you might have a chance. And when he got on the Yamaha, it seemed like that went away. Looked like he would regroup and come back. I seen more of that this year than I have in the last 5 years, and that's not good when you're thinking about it being an Eli Tomac fan. I thought we were gone. I saw that last weekend. I saw it felt like it was the first time this year that it was like, dude, I maybe somewhat what Chase was going through a couple years ago. Like, you know what? I can't beat this guy. And so hopefully for us, being home, being a father, and just being, different place in his career, maybe that goes away. But yeah, I didn't like the signs that I saw last weekend from Eli and his body language. And he said on the podium that essentially they just whooped me. Like, I didn't have nothing for him. You see the same thing?
Yeah, I mean, he didn't have any. Look, Eli has always been a no excuses guy. He'll have races where he's absolutely terrible, and then like 3 months later, it leaks out that like there was one where he got 7th at Unadilla. He went from whole shot to 7th, and we were like, "What is wrong?" And then like months later, James, he said, "Yes, I was fence pounding post at my ranch all week, and my arms were shot." So he is traditionally a no excuses guy. So maybe there is something we don't know about, but to hear him just straight up say, "I got beat, I got to be better. It's not the bike. It's not anything. They were just better than me," was scary. But still, knowing that, man, is that worse than having not even raced in the first 5 rounds like Sexton? Is that worse than that?
No. When you're talking about odds wise, I was a little shocked to see
Yeah.
Chase up there. So I'm completely with you, and I do feel like because of what Eli's been there and knowing that he's really in this thing to win a championship, I don't really see Eli out here saying that, you know what, I want to race this whole Pro Motocross series to get third in the series. Like, I don't feel like that. It's too much work, and he's won. So
Yeah.
I do felt like he's showed up here believing that he can beat Jet Lawrence, and I still believe he actually can. And we can go down that list, but I think Vegas is more leaning on what the heart says and what they see out there rather than just straight up facts, because, it's going to take Chase a couple races. I mean, and you don't have to go back even too long to actually put Chase in this exact scenario. Go back, 2023, I believe it is, Jet Lawrence perfect season. He came back at this race, and look, a lot of hype. Hey, coming in, hometown race, and it wasn't good for him. So you don't have to look back to just show, like, put Chase in this exact scenario and saw what happened. But I do believe Chase is a different rider. I just don't think when you're looking at odds, Chase can go out and win, go 1-1 this weekend, but just coming in the favor, it is more of a heart thing, I believe, for Vegas than Eli Tomac.
Yeah, to that 2023 season, exactly. He came in at RedBud. We were excited. It wasn't that good. And then just when we started to doubt, he's got nothing for Jet, then I think it was a few weeks later, Millville, all of a sudden he is all over Jet. And you're like, oh, it took a week or two. It took a couple motos. You and a couple other guys like Jet this year kind of ruined it, coming back from injury and going 1-1 at the very first race of the year. But hey, how about, I never even thought about this. Is it different to do that coming off an ACL at round 1 than doing it at round 5 or 6 when everybody else has been racing motocross?
Oh, 100%. 100%. It's night and day difference. I mean, I would say, most of these guys, they come back in the middle part of the season. Usually they don't fare well.
No.
I saw Lawrence come in at for the playoffs last year, but even that was it's almost like starting over again. You're going to hybrid supercross track.
Yes.
Normally when guys come in the middle part of the season, you can put Jet in the same spot. I wouldn't pick him to win, and that's not a knock to him. It's just there's so many more factors. You got the bike, you got again, the race pace, that intensity that you have to get used to. So Chase is definitely at a disadvantage going into this weekend. So it'd be a lot different if he was come in at the first part of the race. And I feel like when Jet showed up this year, for people that was thinking that he was going to be riding hurt with an ACL, no, like I didn't think his injury was going to keep him from winning the race at Paula. I thought if anything, it'd just be more the endurance. Somebody attacking him at the end part of the race would be his only ability to get beat. But so far, the dudes just continue to win. So yeah, 100% to answer your question, Jason, it is a lot different showing up at the end in the middle part of the season, even at round 2, than just showing up at the first round.
Hey, I want to give people hope here, though. Jet has still won every overall this year. Can you see as the year goes on? I mean, Chase is going to have 2 more months of this. It goes all the way through August. Can you see him beating him at some point?
Yeah, Yeah, no, I could see that 100%. Um,
Yeah,
this weekend, I don't know about that, just
yeah.
because I think what Jet was able to do last weekend, even though it is Southwick, even though it's one of his best track, he's comfortable there. I think he's gotten that. I would believe if I'm in Jet's mind, I done figured out Eli. So all the worries of beast mode and all this, I think I got that handle. Now Chase Sexton, Chase did beat Jet last year straight up a few times. Like you could talk about whatever, like Jet got hurt and the injury, but Chase has had some success on a KTM of beating Jet Lawrence. And I've been on the record of saying that I believe if Jet was even in that series, that the way Chase was rolling, like I mean, Chase was the best one in the world to me, the way he was riding. That being said, I do feel like there's a mindset thing that happens when you just get somebody else in, and we ain't gonna go down that road. But I do feel like his presence might change. But the way Chase was riding, he would have beat anybody in the world. So to give people hope, I do feel like Chase Sexton, because of what he was able to accomplish last year, and I think he chalks up the first round is like, look, it's just I went out, I didn't even get a chance to race with him. His mindset is like I believe he feels like he can go there and win this weekend, and it's really going to be start dependent. As all these guys, they just got to start in front of the dude and put him in a different spot to have any kind of chance. Because I don't think Chase is going to run this dude down if he's behind him. I don't have that.
We could go on for another hour if we get into James's takes on the track position and how that changes things for Jet. Do we have that kind of time? Maybe we'll do that on another show.
Yeah, we got all the time because clearly I
Oh
don't
boy,
know these numbers in here.
I'm going to throw in some stats that Clinton threw at us. Just some other things to think of, everybody, for RedBud. It has not been a good track historically for Hunter Lawrence. That's kind of odd to think about. He crashed last year. It was a totally different scenario, by the way, last year. That was the first race where Jet was out now with the thumb injury. And it was a real Sexton versus Hunter, who's going to seize control of the championship race. Hunter crashed in the first moto. He averaged an 8.3 in the 250s there, but I think there was 1 year where it was terrible for him, right? So I don't even
yeah,
know if that's true. Like, do you think of this as a weak track for Hunter, or is that just what the numbers say and one bad year can skew that?
well, yeah, trust me. Me and Clinton had some arguments off the show. I'm like, dude, why? Yeah, of course. A DNF changes that whole perspective of
Yeah,
on that.
yeah,
So you go back to 2022, I believe, Hunter Lawrence's, or maybe 23, where he went down in the first corner, hurt his shoulder, DNF right there. I think he came back maybe the second moto, didn't ride that
yeah,
great. So those numbers you average in that, and then last year, him going down, and even though I believe he got third that first moto, and I don't know what he finished like fifth or something the second moto.
yeah. But he was beat up.
Average, yeah, I would say the averages is it's a little skewed on that sense. I don't think when he shows up, it's like a guy who doesn't know how to ride sand, and he's showing up at Southwick, kind of
Yeah.
like worst track. I do think the finishes are really is. That being said, you know, I don't know how much he feels he can beat his own brother too. I tell you one thing, I'd be mad at my younger brother because he rides with him all week long. Do you think Hunter knew Jet's plan that he was going to just show up and just run off in the beginning part of the race? Because I was thinking that as the race was going on, like Hunter was riding really good that first moto, but Jet was already 10 seconds, and I'd be pissed if I didn't know that was going to happen because clearly that's something that he normally doesn't do. Was Hunter in on this and he kind of knew that, or did he just get mollywopped like everybody else and be like, whoa, this dude's gone? So I feel like Hunter feels like he can maybe run with Jet. So yeah, I don't think it's a bad track scenario on that. So Hunter Lawrence.
Yeah, you're right. You go back to Thunder Valley, right? And there were moments in that first motor where we're like, wait, Hunter's gaining on Jet. Hunter's going to pass Jet here. And then all of a sudden, Southwick, now Hunter said, even after the race, he's like, I got to work on the first opening laps because he built a big gap. So, yeah, it changed in a hurry. And I guess he didn't even know that was going
Yeah,
to
no,
happen.
that's what I was saying. Like, I'm like, man, I'll be mad because I mean, this guy's Rod. He knows everything about him. He might have
Yep.
actually felt like he had a chance, but dude was gone. So that how's Aaron Plessinger? Let's break down some numbers on the AP because
Uh-huh.
it's his weekend. It's his holiday. If there was
Oh,
a weekend for the Captain America to show up here, it is Aaron Plessinger. So he's going to show up good for the fans.
yeah, be careful, everybody, because I think this is a head in the heart sports betting here because everybody wants him to podium at RedBud. They want him on that podium, whatever position it is. Even third is fine. Just get him up there at the end of the day when that crowd is going nuts. It's kind of like a mud race where you're like, oh, who's good in the mud? And then you think in your mind that someone's going to do better. I think people just want Plessinger on the podium. I don't know if that means his chances are any better, But I have a feeling some people are just going to think it because they want to see him on the podium so bad.
I'm sure for Aaron, knowing the Cowboy and how much he's going to be enjoying that, I think he will show up this weekend just because of the fans. So clearly,
Oh, it can help.
yeah, it absolutely can, and they're going to be cheering for him probably just as much as anybody else, even over Haven Deegan. So
Yeah.
I expect the Cowboy to be there this weekend. The one guy I want to bring up a little bit is Justin Cooper, because he's been riding really good. Southwick was one of those races that clearly he didn't get to start, but he rode really good. So when you look at, I'm gonna throw him, Hunter Lawrence. You can even throw Jorge in there, but I would say Jorge is probably, out of those three, probably the one that maybe is going to finish the worst, going off what we talked about. Or he could be the guy that's up there battling with Jet. Who knows? Your heads up. Aaron Plessinger, Hunter Lawrence, and Justin Cooper. Out of those three, what do you kind of see? And what does Vegas have for him as well?
Well, they have Hunter. They're ignoring the previous RedBud odds. They have Hunter as the second best going into this race. Jet is the favorite. Hunter is second. Chase Sexton, as we mentioned, is third. That's what the odds say the podium will be. Man, between Justin Cooper and Plessinger, honestly, over the last couple of years, it's splitting hairs between those two. You know what it's going to come down to, James. It's going to come down to the start between Plessinger and Cooper, 100%.
Yeah, man, it's crazy to think about how really it feels like this age has been, you can almost call it the age of, all right, it's the training, scrub, technique, bikes. It's the year of the age of starts. You get a guy, get a start, changes everything. And I would even say that goes all the way to the top. Jet Lawrence.
Yeah.
It's start. Wherever these guys start at, that's going to be dictate on how they finish. And it just seems like that's changed. That guy who's going to get a, 20th place start, in some way grind his way up through the field, that part's really gone. I feel like when those guys start, it almost changes their whole mindset of what they're even going out there to try to accomplish. Do you kind of agree and see the same thing?
Bro, completely. Like, we think of Justin Cooper as a great starter, but actually in my mind, I can remember a lot of races where Plessinger started well last year, this year, even a little bit in 2023, and then he's like a completely different guy. And that's always been the thing with Justin Cooper. He's so start dependent. Yeah, absolutely. I don't know if it's the crowd gets into it. I don't know if it's Roost. They're not dealing with it. They can take their own lines. I don't know, man. But it does seem like, yeah, back when you were racing, I feel it's like everybody's going to finish where they're going to finish anyway. Yeah. They can start 11th or 1st. And then the end of the day, the results are the same. It seems so different than that now. And like Cooper and Plessinger are probably like the best example of that. But I do feel like, look at Tomac, man. He gets stuck behind people. That's what we talked about at the top of the show. He gets stuck behind people.
Yeah, speaking of that, I was saying last weekend, the way Jet Lawrence ride, I had to quote, I was like, the reason Jet Lawrence is so hard to beat is because he's slow.
You better explain that one, buddy.
I'll try to explain it. So the reason he is hard to beat is because he's slow. And when you look at Eli Tomac, what is Eli good at? He's known as beast mode, really running in deep, Jeremy Martin kind of effect, but really charging into sections. Boy, when you look at Jet, like he's really patient going in. And so on a bigger scale, when Jet's out front, obviously he can ride those lines. When I believe he's behind guys, and we only had a small sample size of him doing that, but even going back to the 250 class, like he really had a difficult time really coming up through the pack. Go back to Unadilla a few years ago when he was coming up, he ends up going down that first moto. It's just a whole different. But these other guys, Chase Sexton, Eli Tomac, they have a hard time passing him. And I do believe what makes Chase really good is that when you see him coming in, he's really charging hard going in the corners, just like Eli. And I feel like when Jet is out front, they can't get around them. So it almost neglects of what they're really negates what they're really good at. And because this dude out in front. So I still feel like because Jet Lawrence is slow entering corners, it really makes it hard for guys like Eli Tomac and Chase Sexton to get around them. So maybe a lot of that comes in to Eli being stuck. I think Eli being stuck behind Justin Cooper and some of these other guys is more the fact that there becomes a point in that race where he realizes that he's not going to catch Jet Lawrence. And so it goes back to that mindset of like, dude, if I can't win, I don't even really care to beat this other dude. And it really stalls him out because he goes from, 210s to like 215, 216s. And all of a sudden it's like he wakes up and he's like, oh, I'm in the championship. I go back. So nonetheless, it just going back to whole topic, start dependent for a lot of these guys, including Eli Tomac and all that. But I think it's more of a little bit deeper on those guys not being able to get around Jet Lawrence, specifically Chase Sexton and Eli Tomac.
Yeah, and I know what you've been explaining to me is, look, they can go faster into the turn, but if there's not room to pass the guy there, you can't go faster than him. You'll just run into the back of him. So they can't use the area where they're fast.
Yeah, no, they can't. And no, they can't. And we can go back to what last weekend, as you can go back to last year where Chase actually passed Jet Lawrence at Southwick or the mechanics area. That's the only part where the track where it really opens up to a 4-lane highway. Everywhere else, like it looked like he was going to run in the back of him. So again, that's another day, another topic. But those three, it's going to be good this weekend. Nonetheless, I do feel like, hopefully for us, they start in front of them because I think it'd be a good race. You give Chase that confidence out front to do. He can clearly go fast. I mean, even still, I don't think Chase is going to be just slow this weekend. I just think maybe if he's not out front, just that race conditioning and dealing with it, he's got to deal with the bike setup. That part's going to be hard for him. But if he's out front, I do think he'll give him a run. That being said, so the event winners, it is Jet Lawrence, Hunter Lawrence second, then Chase Sexton, followed by Eli Tomac. Podiums is somewhat similar. That being said, let's go to the head-to-heads real quick.
No, I got one other thing for this podium we got to talk about.
All right.
So they have some long odds on Prado getting a podium. He was at least in the hunt for it at Southwick. Now, I don't know if it's going to be better than it was at Southwick, and he still didn't podium there. But if he didn't crash, maybe. Yeah. This is aggressive. You would get $20 on a bet for Prado to podium. You would make $377 because he's plus 1786. I don't know, man. It might be worth the risk.
I think that is worth the risk. I think that's worth the risk. And like I said, for us, I mean, $20, it is. Is it a long shot though? Really? Like it's a long
I don't think it is.
Yeah, I know. Like that might be a sneaky. I'm glad you brought that up because that is something that and that's for a podium. So yeah, I
think he can get third.
Yeah, that's 100% he can't get third. And especially with these other guys, you got Chase coming off. So who knows what's going to happen? He might have one good moto, one bad moto.
Yeah.
Eli, we know how that's been going. So yeah, I mean, really, he would just have to beat, I would say, the most consistent guys emotionally this year would be Aaron Plessinger and Justin Cooper. We kind of get a consistent of what they're going to do. Hunter Lawrence, sometimes the bike ain't right. Maybe not as, up front compared to comfortable he looked the last couple of weekends. And then Jet Lawrence is obviously consistent. So yeah, I don't think it's a long shot. I like that bet. I would put my money, if I could, I would put that on Jorge for sure.
Yeah, we're not saying he's going to, but we're saying like it's worth $20 to take a flyer on it. And here's the interesting thing, right? I think we're both identifying, the kids use this term try hard these days. That's kind of a negative thing. But like, if you put the $20 on Prado and you could make $377 if he finishes on the podium, that's what you're going to be looking for. I do feel like a lot of Prado was he just tried harder at Southwick. If he just does that again at RedBud, it's at least he's in the zone where he could go 4-4 for third or 4-3 or something like that.
Yeah, no, that was a good one. That's actually a good one. I missed that one. Yeah. I would definitely put it on. And I feel like the best weekend to do that is this weekend because of what we saw. So you even go emotionally. I think Jorge probably believes he can get on the podium because he already said it ain't the bike. That was the same. So right there tells you right there.
He can try harder.
No, I was just saying my own whatever I just said. All
right. You want to do head-to-heads now?
Yeah. Let's go head-to-head. So Jorge right there tells you that really it was really a mental thing for him. That was the difference between last weekend and High Point. So let's continue to do that. So the head-to-heads. Who do we got? Who we got on this list? We have
two we're going to talk about here specifically. RJ Hampshire, by the way, has won at this track twice on 250s, 2020 and 2021. We'll see if that means anything. So one of the head-to-heads that's available is Prado versus Hampshire. Hampshire has been really good this year. James has been very consistent. We haven't seen him a lot on our shows because he's not doing RJ things. He's just in like the 6 to 7 range. Then I think he got 4th in one of these at Southwick. But basically, he's just been doing his thing. Yeah. But we don't know what the upside is for Prado. I never thought I'd say this, but it's like, if you're going to go head-to-head Prado versus RJ is like the constant solid, and Prado is the one that it's hard to say where he's going to end up.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right. Normally, we, like you said, we usually get an RJ-ish thing that happened, but
Oh yeah.
yeah, and RJ talking to him last weekend, he feels comfortable. I guess they got some new stuff on the motorcycle, and like you said, he he is riding really good. Now, is that pressure? Because I don't know how much was really expected to him coming into this 450 class. So, um, would that change next year? Like, all right, him expecting to get a podium, would that change? Would he bring up the RJ stuff? I think it's more the 450. He told me personally that he feels more comfortable in the 450, suits his riding style better, doesn't have to worry about nutrition as much as far as, over eating too much, the hamburgers, whatever, like I used to like to eat, especially on that Baker program. Um, yeah, I do believe that. So RJ over Jorge. Um, yeah, I think you would have to lean towards Jorge unless you're going to pick towards that podium bet that you just said with Jorge. Um,
Yeah, they have RJ as the favorite, so head to head, you'd make a little more if you picked Jorge. I get it. The odds are going to be based on like RJ beats him more this year, but we don't know if it's going to be the same Jorge who RJ's been beating this weekend. It could be a different guy.
yeah,
George versus Jorge.
exactly. I was about to say, so you don't know if he's racing his head-to-head George or Jorge. So we'll find out. And the next one, it looks like it's Eli versus Chase, and they got Chase as a favorite. Which again, we just broke that whole thing down, which is odd. So, yeah, maybe the hometown hero. Chase did go 1-1 last year. Here, I think that's a toss in to me. Yeah, I feel like if Eli shows up as beast mode, Eli can be winning the race, But if he's not that guy, I can see Chase beating him too. So it's just odd to, after everything that we said, coming back in the middle part of the year. Yeah, it is. It is strange.
I'm with you, man, and especially because Chase has a better odds than Eli. If I could gamble, and I'm not only am I not allowed, I wouldn't do it anyway because I'm too darn cheap. But I would put the money on Tomac. I just think coming back mid-season is a big ask, and that means more than being fresh and full of confidence like we assume Sexton is. Although, if he get whole shot, which we haven't seen much of that with Sexton in a long time, maybe that changes things.
Yeah, clearly, if Eli's not out front, it does change a lot of things. But
Yeah,
yeah, that's why we go racing, and that's why it's the best part of every weekend. You just really never know what's going to happen. Even though it's pretty consistent with Jet Lawrence,
it
those
is.
guys, they have been close until last weekend. They have been pretty close. But even Jorge, the second motor, he kept Jet honest. He was there. So the
He did.
speed's clearly there. But people, as always, the lines that we basically gave you, got to thank Jason for that, because obviously I didn't give you that many of them. They will change. So make sure you guys check it out. Inside Line on YouTube, Instagram, we'll have them up for you. And yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And I wish we can continue going on just bench racing, but we'll talk enough this weekend, Jay.
Yeah.
Together in a few days. And if you guys want more, make sure you tune in this weekend. I'll be with my boy and we'll have some fun. So, Jay, I appreciate you coming on the show.
This is fun, almost too much fun. I don't want to get carried away.
Yeah. All right, guys, that's it. I'll see you next weekend. Have fun.